Hello everyone and welcome to the 5th episode of our We Are the Women of CIB podcast series. A series where we've been talking to various women of CIB about women issues in their sectors, BUs, in their lives. And we hope you've enjoyed this series as much as we have. The aim is that we learn with each other, about each other, and importantly, from each other, while trying to find our place in this beast that is corporate investment banking quite often. So today we have another pair of amazing women joining us, Charmaine and Michelle. Thank you for being here today. You know, for our audience out there who may not know who you are or have met you before, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do at the bank and how long you've been here.
Shall I kick it off?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So hi, Romy. I'm Charmaine Thiart. I'm very pleased to say I've been at Nedbank since 2010 and been at many of the other financial institutions, loving every moment of being at the bank. So I never really felt like I've been working.
Oh, that's awesome.
I do what I'm most passionate about and I work in payments every day. So I feel that I get to make a difference to people's lives every single day of my life. So really, really inspired to be here. And thank you so much for the opportunity to come and have some chats with you.
Amazing. Wonderful to have you here. Michelle?
And Romy, thanks to you also for inviting us to be here today. It's a pleasure to be in Charmaine's company. I actually have not met Charmaine before, and I've been at the bank for as long, if not longer than Charmaine. So it's very nice to be here today. And yeah, so I've been at the bank for 16 years now. Prior to that, I was not at any other banks. I was at boutique corporate finance houses, Anglo-American. So I mean, the fact that I've been here for 16 years is testament to how much I love working at Nedbank. I've always worked in the same team, so I'm in CIB.
Okay.
And I work in the broader corporate finance team. And we're an advisory team. We advise corporates on M&A transactions. And I've carved a little niche for myself in that team, and I'll speak more about it later, which is called the regulatory and sponsor team. So we specialize on the JSE listings requirements. So all listed companies have to have a sponsor, and we are sponsored to about 20 large South African corporates.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible. Love to hear about that. I can't wait to hear more about it. So thank you, ladies. I mean, long service is and does seem to be a trend in Nedbank. And I think it's testament to the culture that we have inside the organization. And I suppose which leads us into the reason why we're here today and what I really want to chat to the two of you about. Charmaine, we are looking at, owning your success as a woman and not being afraid to celebrate it. Through the lens of, the CE nominee. You were obviously nominated for an incredible award. And Michelle, you're going to talk to us about your journey as a mother and navigating that in a corporate investment bank and all of the challenges and, I guess, good moments that come with that. So without wasting time, I think let's get into the questions. And Charmaine, I'm going to start with you. So talk to us a bit about that CE nominee journey that you were on for some of the ladies out there.
So, Romy, first of all, the journey is still continuing. It's something that I literally once a week have an opportunity just to work through and try to understand and make sense of all of this. It is absolutely the most phenomenal thing that has happened in my career, probably in my life, next to giving birth to my daughter. So it really was life-changing from that perspective. But I think I need to share a little bit of the lighthearted side to this. I was actually off ill and had no idea what was going on. And Michelle Kringle messaged me to say she wanted to pop around and have some coffee. And I thought I was being cute and said, no problem, I'll get the cake, you bring the coffee. I'll get the coffee, you get your, and I'll get you some cake. And she said, don't worry, she's going to arrive with cake and coffee. I must just make sure that I'm ready to receive her. And that Monday arrived, and there, lo and behold, Michelle arrives at my gate, and this massive bouquet of flowers, which, immediately you're like, oh, it's because you're not well, and Michelle's
yes, that's what you naturally think.
And all the rest. and she brings out this box. It's only the two of us. I thought, how much cake are we possibly going to eat? And the next thing we go inside and arrange coffee, and she said, but I've got something else for you. You need to open this box. And it was a Nedbank CIB box. And I actually started shaking. I have no idea why I was shaking at that point. So I started shaking out. Well, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And in there was an invite for the event that was taking place on the 1st of April. And I remember standing there looking at her saying, I don't understand.
What is this all about?
What's going on? And she said to me, my lovey, you have been selected as the nominee to go forward.
Wow.
And I was like, really? Me? Like me? What could I possibly have done? And it was really such a wow moment for me at that stage. But it took forever for it to finally sink in.
That you were being recognized.
I was being recognized
for the hard work.
And it really, really was something that I had to get to grips with. It's amazing how good we are at accepting criticism. When somebody says, oh, yeah,
so true.
You do look fat in those jeans. We accept it like that. But when somebody is trying to recognize you for doing well, can't possibly be me. Why would they do it? Why would they do that? I don't deserve that.
Yes, we were actually talking about that in a previous episode, and we don't often talk about the good that we do.
Absolutely.
And what we've achieved, not knowing that it inspires so many other people when they hear a story like that.
So, I mean, I had the most phenomenal coffee with Michelle, but I can tell you it's absolutely surreal. And I often have to replay those moments to think, what did we actually talk about? And how did she ground me into what was going on? Because it couldn't possibly have been me.
What an incredible, incredible moment. Yeah, that's amazing. How did it feel knowing that your peers and your managers actually recognized you for your hard work?
So I couldn't cope with this. And, Michelle tried to help me that leading up. And then the day of the event, I remember standing on the stage. And it was only when Anel took my hand. She grabbed my hand and she said, look on the screen. They're talking about you.
Yeah, and your face was
it
plastered up the side of the building.
And it was that grounding when she grounded me and she said, focus. That I was like, oh my word, my peers have spoken. That is me. Wow, I did that. Oh, wow. Gee, that must be quite an achievement. And it was really, first of all, you're obviously wondering who did this, who put together the nominations. But, the fact that people took time and trouble to do that, absolutely overwhelming. I'm not somebody who bursts into tears at the drop of a hat, but you can't not acknowledge.
You're overwhelmed by the emotion of it all, and the gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it just shows, it's testament to how many people you've touched in the role, and that they take the time to do that for you. So, congratulations again. That's amazing. Who was the first person you told when you heard this news? Besides Michelle, because she was there.
So at that point, it was quite funny. Michelle was coming to coffee, and my boss at the time was Murray Stocks, and he sent me a message and said to me, I believe Michelle's coming for coffee. This was on a Monday, and
he obviously knew, didn't he?
Well, you see what I did.
Yes. No, okay.
Yeah, everyone else knew.
Yeah. And it was like an, oops, have I done something wrong? Please call me when Michelle has left. And when Michelle left, I phoned Murray to say that Michelle had been there and this had now happened. And
this is the news.
This is the news.
Don't worry, I'm not in trouble.
I'll be at work tomorrow.
I've got a few more days in me.
Amazing. I'm certain you celebrated the win with your family, and they're all extremely proud of you. But I what we were talking about earlier on is that women often struggle to celebrate those wins. Would you say that's so, and why do you think we do that?
So I went through, and I'm not sure all women go through this, so I can talk to myself. I actually felt guilty. How on earth, why should I be nominated? There's so many worthy people that deserve that position. And what made me different? And I think perhaps it's part of, we are brought up, or I certainly was brought up to say, don't spend too much time focusing on yourself. you really need to get on with the job. Get on. There's a lot happening around you. I even remember my granny once telling me, obviously at a stage, probably prepubescent or whatever it is, you sit and you comb your hair. And my granny saying, if you stare in the mirror too long, it will crack.
So my gosh,
there were all these
the generational differences are crazy.
There were these subtle messages that kept coming along to say it's not good to acknowledge your own success. It's not good to celebrate small victories. And then it just becomes your normal way of working. So you just carry on with life and you just accept you did something. You never really step back and say, did I do it really well? How could I have improved on it? Am I good enough? Or was that good? And should we just for a moment have
I did that.
Whoop whoop. Yeah. We just move on to the next thing in this constant pursuit of perfection almost. And I think it's very sad. And
I agree.
We need to stop that cycle. And the sooner we do that, the better for everybody.
And I guess you probably have a different message for your daughter today around that.
Absolutely.
Celebrating her success and being proud of it and not being ashamed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of.
There's nothing to be ashamed about being fabulous.
Yes, right. Can we all just own our fabulosity?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love us to do that.
And even if you're not fabulous, fake it until you are.
Yeah, right. Right. You start to feel it because it's a mindset thing.
Absolutely. So you get up in the morning and even if you're not feeling fabulous, you start off saying, I'm okay. Eventually, I'm okay is I'm better than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
To, you know what? I own this. I'm hot today. I am fabulous. And I think when you move into that moment of fabulosity, that's when you start to take back your own power. Your power has always been there. You just hide it around and behind so many things.
We think we should, but really we shouldn't. Great, Charmaine. I think that was really a heartwarming story. I really loved hearing it. So thank you for sharing that. Michelle, I'd like to bring you in at this point in the conversation. What are you doing to celebrate your successes? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Firstly, it starts with chocolate and whiskey.
Or wine, depending on your preference.
All successes. You spoke about bubbles. My choice is whiskey. So, no, but seriously, it always involves my family. So it would be some form of celebration that included my husband and daughter. I've got one daughter, and my mom and dad, who I'm very close to, as well as my brother, although he's recently moved down to Cape Town, so I don't get to see him every day. And it also, it often involves travel of some sort with my family, because that's my second
proper celebration.
Yeah, proper celebration. That's my sort of second passion after my family, with Nedbank being a close third.
And I think this podcast series has really taught us not to be afraid to take up space, to take up the win, to really own it as women in a corporate investment bank, and that we're all remarkable in our own way, and we should really own that. So as we switch gears to talk to you, Michelle, over and above being a woman in the workplace and the many challenges that come with that, we are also partners, we are mothers, and, we are wives. And with all that additional responsibility that comes with it, how do you balance it and how do you overcome those challenges, family and work?
So I would say that the biggest challenge with that dual role, although it's more than just a dual role, there are multiple roles that we as women play in the workplace and at home. The biggest challenge is time. It's finding time in the day to get to everything, because you're being pulled in every direction.
Can imagine.
So that really is the biggest challenge, and I think the way that you overcome that is only through experience, because when you are younger, you are not required really to have multiple roles that you are playing, and you don't really know how to juggle those different parts of your life. And I think when you are a new mom, it is very challenging because you're now back in the workplace. You've got a newborn at home. You're possibly also newly married, so you're a wife as well. You have a partner, so it's something that you just get used to and you learn to do. And I think Nedbank has been such an amazing place to work at because they are so understanding of the roles that we play as women at work and at home, and they afford you the time and the ability to be able to be successful in both roles. One doesn't have to come at the expense of the other. So I've been very fortunate in having started my journey at Nedbank before I was married. Then I got married, had a child, and Nedbank has been supportive throughout that process.
Absolutely amazing. I was going to say, how do you think they've supported you throughout your journey?
So, well, the way that they specifically supported me, I'll speak to that, is that when I started off at Nedbank, I started off in corporate finance, which in CIB or investment banking terms is M&A.
Yes.
Globally, everybody speaks about M&A. It's a very, very demanding career. It requires very long hours.
Yep.
And I would say it's very difficult to be a mom in M&A. Not that you can't, and I think Nedbank allows you to be, but it is difficult. And what I did was once I'd had my daughter, I came back and realized that it was going to be hard for me to fulfill the role that I had previously fulfilled. And I really carved a niche for myself in the corporate finance team, where I focus on regulations. So I still form part of the team, but it's more, I would say, more of a back office function, if I can say, although I do have interactions with clients all the time. Sure. But I'm there to support the corporate finance team and to support our sponsor clients. And I think Nedbank, afforded me the ability to be able to do this. I sold to them what I thought would be best for me going forward, and they were supportive of that.
Amazing.
And that was, that was how I was able to continue working and forging still a successful career in corporate finance.
And I think it's really smart that you came back, saw that you were struggling, and did something about it. I think that's very clever and a nice lesson, I think, for everybody listening in on, just think about sometimes the problem differently, come up with a better solution and something that works for you too. And luckily we work in a place that supports that and will work with us.
Yeah, and also just to go on from that is to identify what you are good at.
Yes.
Earlier on in your career than I did. I would say that going back to your previous questions around challenges is, and this applies not only to women, it applies to anybody in the working space, is to try and identify what you're good at, because generally that will be the thing that makes you happy and make you love your job.
Totally.
And I think I only identified that much later on in my career, when I was almost forced to do it because of trying to balance work and home. I wish that I'd acknowledged that earlier on.
Put more time into it maybe, and thinking about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know, when we're young, and that's also a challenge. It's like, how do you know when to put the time and effort into it? Have you got enough lived experience to go and write that, or know yourself well enough to do that? Not always easy. Yeah. Okay. So along with the challenges of being a mom in corporate, and, in general, motherhood changes you. Would you agree with that statement? And what are some of those things that changed for you once you became a mom?
I think becoming a mom makes you selfless. It's not always about you anymore. Actually, it's never about you. Never about you anymore. Ever again. So I would say that was the biggest change. It also makes you compassionate. It teaches you to multitask. Women can multitask, but it teaches you beyond multitasking because you're constantly having to do that throughout your day. And I think it does soften you, but in a good way. It puts you in touch with your emotions. Anger's one of them when your child won't do but frustration. No, but it does. It's about being compassionate and selfless, and I think bringing that into the workspace those are always good traits to bring to a work environment.
That's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And something I think we bring as women quite uniquely and should own. My mom also says to me that because I'm scared of every little bug and any little thing, and she always says to me, once you become a mother, you'll be fearless. Like you won't even care about that stuff anymore, especially if it's near your baby.
I don't know whether that's true.
Yeah, she goes, if there's a spider near your baby, you'll kill it. Trust me, you'll kill it. And you'll forget about the fact that you're terrified of spiders. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, no,
I don't know about that.
So maybe that's you. I don't know about me. I'd be like, the baby's on its own. Needs to figure things out for itself. So yeah, I mean, I guess, our priorities do shift and change a little bit. Becoming a mom, a wife, growing older, becoming self-aware. And this question it's going to be directed at both of you. What is the one thing you ladies know that you wish you knew earlier? And Charmaine, maybe you go first and then we can switch to Michelle.
I think that growing up as a young girl, I think you're always challenged about whether you are good enough. Am I okay? And I think if I could go back and give myself a lesson, it would be to say, you are more than okay. And even if you're not, it's okay. I think that we are so incredibly hard on ourselves for all the wrong reasons, and that we need to take rational stock take of what's going on in our lives. So, yeah, I'm okay. And even when I'm not okay, it's okay.
It's okay. And run your own race. Don't compare yourself to other people. I think is really important in that space. Just run your own race and don't compare yourself to others, because then you will be okay.
Yeah.
Because you're not competing with anyone.
Yeah.
It's just doing better than yesterday.
Yeah, that uniqueness that you bring.
Then no one else can. Yeah. Awesome.
So for me, it's about not being so worried about what other people think about me. If I look back on when I was younger at school, even right up until in my 30s, early 30s, I was so concerned about what other people thought of me. And, like you said, just being comfortable in your own skin. And I'm not sure that you can learn that, and whether that just comes from experience. Although some people, I can take for example, my daughter. I really have a fearless daughter who doesn't care about what people think at all. And so she's been born with that, whereas I wasn't, and I had to sort of learn it. Worry about what you think of yourself, and you've only got stuff to prove to yourself, nobody else, and you are good enough. You're more than good enough. You're fabulous.
Absolutely.
So that's what I wish that I knew. Back
and
when I was
people are
younger.
going to think what they think anyway.
Yeah.
No matter, regardless of how exhausted you are trying to change
and
who you are
cares
for
what
them.
they think?
Who cares? Could not be bothered. But I also think I'm loving the younger generation and their ability to just really not care what people think. It's a great lesson, I think, for the rest of us. Yeah. Awesome. So thank you once again, ladies, for joining us today. It has been so much fun and it's been enlightening, and I've learned a lot from chatting to the two of you. I trust you've enjoyed yourselves too. I hope so.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm so sad it's ended.
Okay, no, we'll do another one.
Yeah,
okay, no,
we'll
do another one. We'll do
year.
another round of this. Yeah, exactly. And then to all our viewers, thank you for joining. Next week is our last episode. Can you believe we're already at the end of August? So, yeah, I'll see you all then, and thanks for joining.